a lot. Let's talk Manchester City now, because all's not well there. They're struggling a little bit for a little bit of form. Does the shadow of Guardiola, the relentless nature of the stories that are appearing in the papers every day about his arrival at City, is this having a negative effect?
Guardiola's coming in the summer. Surely it makes you raise your game to survive and be part of the Pep Guardiola regime, because obviously Pellegrini's on his way. And there's a lot of players at City who have kind of future or question marks over the future. I went through them the other day, and I kind of came to about 10 players that believe in, and obviously they won't let...
Who are the 10? Who, off the top of your head?
Let's go through the team. Well, basically, I mean, obviously the keeper's fine, but you've got Caballero who's not proving himself as a backup. In defence, I don't think they've got a decent full-back in the club. You know, Zabaletta's been great, but he's getting on a bit now. So you've got Zabaleta and Sagna, who are probably not good enough for a Pep Guardiola team.
That's the two right-backs out.
Yeah, Kolarov and Clichy at left-back can't defend. So they're out as well. Centre-half, you keep company if he's fit. Mangala, you know. Di Michelis, probably his contract's up in the summer, so he can go as well.
That's 6.
6.
Is Otamendi staying?
He'll have to stay because he's got nobody else. Midfield...
John Stones?
Well, John Stones, I think everybody will be looking at John Stones, but you go to the midfield, you've got, obviously, Fernandinho's nailed on to stay. Fernando, probably not. Yaya Toure, probably not.
That's 8.
I wonder if David Silva's got a future at Man City under Guardiola, because as great a player as he's been, you look at the way that Guardiola's teams play.
30 now?
He's 30, and he likes his players high up the pitch, energetic pressing, and that's not David Silva's game. David Silva's a fantastic player, but again, he's had his injuries this season. Can he be relied upon to play a high-intensity game under Guardiola? Who knows? De Bruyne has been great. Sterling obviously will come good up front. Well, Nasri's not fit.
Toast?
I'd imagine he would be, because he doesn't have the defensive mentality to work under Guardiola. You go to up front, Wilfried Bony.
Navas, before we get to the...
Navas, we're going past 10 here, aren't we?
Easily.
Yeah, but obviously they won't let 10, 11 players won't leave this summer. It's impossible to see that. But the point is that a lot of these players have question marks over the future. So how many of them can raise the game and prove that they're going to be around? And that's why, from now to the end of the season, Man City should be playing better and raising the game, because a lot of players have got, if they want to stay, if they've got that heart and desire to survive. Because if you're a footballer, you'd love to play for Pep Guardiola at a club like Man City. So surely these guys should be up in the ante now. But the one thing about Man City is, the 2 seasons they've won the title, they've always had a bad dip where they look like they've lost it. And there's a game that comes along, and it just clicks into place. Maybe they've fallen so far off the pace, you think, we're not going to win it now, so let's go for it. They've got a lot of players at City who pick the games, maybe, but when they pick the games, they certainly perform, and people like Yaya are like that, and company at times. And so maybe City now get their act together and get on a roll and start to win the games and win the league. I still think they're a good shout to win the league, because they've got the best squad and they've done it before. But like I said, there are a lot of players that need to raise the game to survive at the club, because Guardiola won't stand for any players that are coasting.
Are you excited by the arrival of Guardiola? OK, it's a few months away, but there's Steve Bates' story on the back page of The People this morning about the team going to China. They're playing United in the Plastic Derby. Is he going to make the big impact at this club?
Well, you know, it's certainly great for us as journalists, isn't it? You want all the big names, be it players or managers in this country. It's not the case with players, sadly, now, is it? But certainly, I think, you know, the managers, you want them there. That's why it'd be good to get Mourinho back at some stage. It's great to have Guardiola in England, and I think it'd be fantastic. Whether it'll be an instant success, I think you know, he will not need telling. He's got a massive job at Manchester City, and certainly the most difficult job they've had in management. So it'll be very interesting to see how he gets on. But you know, as Mark said, I think it needs a total overhaul, and that would be you know, really testing for him, even if he's got the money to spend, as we've seen in the past. Certainly some of the clubs this season, certainly at Manchester United, spending 300 million doesn't get you very far if it's not done in the right way. So it'd be a real test for Guardiola, but I'm certainly glad he's coming, and I think it'll be very interesting.
Yeah. Do you think they'll spend big? Sam, do they need a lot of work?
They'll spend big, but...
Mark's talking about 10 players, maybe more.
When you bring in, you know, supposedly the greatest manager of his generation, he should improve players. That's what Pochettino's done. He's come in and worked with the players that he's got, and, OK, not everyone stayed, but certainly he's got more out of people. That, to me, is what a good manager does. I mean, yeah, look, the big clubs will always sign big players, but I don't think if Guardiola comes in and says, I've got to make 10 changes, I'd be thinking, well, Surely you can add value to this team in a way that others can't. That's why you're Pep Guardiola. And so there will clearly be changes. And I think the thing about Guardiola that people maybe don't always pick up on, he's quite high maintenance. You know, he is quite a demanding man. And Bayern, he kept them in the dark, and they're a club that like to be in control right up until the Christmas period, when they pretty much laid it on the line and said, you've got to tell us whether you're staying or not. So I don't think we should forget that this is a man who's who can be difficult himself. So it will be interesting.
Yeah, certainly will be. Guardiola at Manchester City next season. This afternoon, Pellegrini's team play Tottenham at the Etihad. OK, next up, Tottenham. Some serious business as well, Mark, because The Independent, which is, of course, your paper, Sam worked for them. I've worked for them on a freelance basis at the start of my career. But some pretty big news this week about the closure of the paper. The online, of course, will still continue. What can you say about it, your feelings about it, when you first heard about it, the first rumblings? Because you've only just joined the paper, you succeeded Sam.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. No, it's obviously it was, I think, Thursday morning when we first got wind that things were happening, and it was a shock. And it moved fairly quickly that the Eye was being sold, that the Indie was going to close down, but the website is going to survive. And it does seem as though the idea is to turn the website into, you know, obviously go for a quality website rather than go for the kind of the low-end, cheap-end, whereby it's just clickbait is the phrase, isn't it? They're going to try and keep it going in terms of a serious website. That's a great idea at this stage. Hopefully it works. I mean, we look in the States, and, you know, if you look at the American media, everything's online these days, and, you know, the big websites, and that's where people kind of digest their media content. Obviously, we'll all miss picking up a paper in the morning and seeing what you've done for the paper, and obviously a lot of people will lose their jobs, and that's a really sad state of affairs. But I suppose in the reality, it's 2016, people are going online for their news these days. We've all been through that kind of revolution in the last 5 or 6 years, whereby, you know, the demand is to file for the website, file for online, be quick, be straight onto the website. And newspapers, you know, we all hope they survive, but is this the first of many that will go that way? I don't know. I mean, I fear it might be, but I still think that there's a market there for the type of journalism that we do, to be on the website, for people to digest it. The website has been doing well, it's been growing, so, you know, I'm fairly confident in that, you know, certainly the immediate future, that everything will be fine.
We all have, historically, we all print journalists. I think we miss that kind of idea of getting print all over our fingers first thing in the morning, picking up the papers, Mark. But do you buy into the online revolution? Can you see that is the future and the possibility, the end game for newspapers?
I buy into it because I think 90% of the feedback that we all get is online, via Twitter or via Facebook. You know, you get feedback when people pick up the paper in the morning. You might get a phone call or a text, but if you want immediate reaction, it's because of what you've done for the website. And I think that's been the case for 4 or 5 years now. And it's whether people can make online work, make it profitable. That's the big question, because I think, you know, the Sun and the Times have tried paywall models. I'm not sure if it's a success. The Guardian have tried free access, not been quite a success. Maybe there's a middle ground, but there are people out there that will be watching this show this morning who follow all of us on Twitter and other guys, and, you know, they'll wait at 10:30 for the papers to drop and to see what's out there. So there is a market for what we produce, and we've just got to make sure that we kind of continue to provide that copy and that information which people continue to buy.
Sam, how do you feel about it? Because I know that you were very emotionally attached to this newspaper, and you were there for a long, long time, so it must have come as a big shock to you, and you must be pretty sad about it as well.
Yeah, it gave me lots and lots of opportunities, The Independent, and it's a great newspaper to work for, but that is not what is important now. What is important is my friends and my colleagues and their futures, and that's what I'm concerned about. I mean, a brief history of The Independent, it's almost 30 years old. It overtook the Times in circulation in the 1980s, and for various reasons it couldn't sustain it. Everyone I've spoken to, as people have rung me about this, have expressed sadness and regret that The Independent's going. And my question is always, well, when was the last time you bought it? Because it's like the kind of nice shop in your local high street. You're glad it's there, but if you don't go in there and buy something every now and again, it won't be there forever. Yeah. And, you know, people are prepared... You know, Starbucks don't give away their coffee for free, and Sky don't give away all this excellent content that we're producing for free. And
give those croissants away every weekend.
Yeah, we take those at the end. But people have to understand that if they want, you know, good journalism, and I'm not saying we're perfect all the time, but if they want the kind of investigations that you see in this new movie Spotlight that's going to win, everyone thinks going to win all the Oscars, that just like, you know, good TV or good coffee or anything else, any kind of sort of product, it has to be paid for. And I'm afraid we've got into a culture of people thinking that it just comes from nowhere. People say to me, I get my news from the internet. Well, where do you think that comes from? You know, if you're going to report on, you know, Vladimir Putin, or you're going to report on Barcelona, or all these things that trend on Twitter all the time, it costs money to send a reporter there to ask the pertinent questions. Otherwise, you are going to get club TV channels or government departments telling you what's going on, and nobody wants that because they won't tell you the truth.
How do you feel about the newspaper, the industry?
Well,
As things stand, Charlie,
you know, my son's 15 and just obviously gets all his news, his sport off his tablet, doesn't even think to look at a paper, and I think that probably applies to most people under 30. They don't buy papers anymore. They might get a Metro when it's handed to them for free at the station, and get a Standard likewise. But yeah, it's a real challenge because, yeah, how do you make it pay? As Sam mentioned, you know, those that are going out.
Why is everyone obsessed, Charlie, with the free content that Sam mentioned? Yeah. Why is everyone obsessed with this? Must come for nothing. You know, I can pick this up on the way. You know, Metro, Evening Standard, free. Why is everyone obsessed with free content?
Well, I think that all the papers regret not having a paywall right at the start. You know, when Apple provided iTunes, they didn't give people the choice of either paying for it or having it for free, did they? You know, quite a few papers in other countries, particularly in Scandinavia, put paywalls up, metered paywalls quite early, and making, you know, a lot of money, and so can invest in journalism. And you know, over here now, there's this hope that online is going to work. They'll make money from and pay for journalism, but you know, each time there's this hope, you've got sort of the rise in ad blockers and stuff like that. So at the moment, you know, a lot of papers are struggling to make any money from advertising. And, you know, going back to Sam's point, you know, those that are going to Paris in the week to cover Chelsea, well, you know, it costs money to get out there. And, you know, for all media organisations this summer, and by this I mean radio, TV, newspapers, you know, going to the Euros costs a lot of money. Now, you know, we could also do it from home and just cover the matches off TV and not ask the managers any questions, be at the press conferences. And, of course, it wouldn't be very good. So you've got to make money and pay for journalism somehow, and that's the battle all newspapers have got, and there's a lot of head-scratching at the moment because there's no obvious solution. Yeah,
people trying to find a way to make it pay. Thanks to the guys, some good points made. Mark, of course, works for The Independent, which announced this week that it was going to close its print edition. You can still read it online, you can still read